I am pregnant.
So, no, we're not going to get pregnant naturally, unfortunately.
So really, like if we were to see one of these, it would only be
You just had that in your pocket?
if we did IVF, unless a miracle happened.
All right, hit that subscribe button if you want to follow us on our
Unless a
journey.
miracle happened.
Why does it say pregnant? When did you take that? When did you take that?
This morning.
You're kidding. What? Are you serious? You're not serious.
I'm pregnant.
No, you're not. No, you're not. No way! Seriously? No way. Oh boy. Oh no. So before we started our... Yes, Satan? So before we started our journey, our IVF journey, we decided that we were going to use all of our embryos.
Yes, we did.
And then we got pregnant naturally.
Yes,
And I pretty much did a 180.
definitely.
I said, we are done. Like, this is hard. Like having twins that are barely 18 months old, having a newborn, not sleeping. Life was really hard.
It was busy, for sure, but also exciting. And so we enter probably the toughest stage of our marriage, and not because it was so busy with kids, but because we were kind of at odds with what our future looked like and whether or not we saw kids in our future, more children in our future.
Right. And it would pretty much come up almost daily. You know, it's like if the kids were being really bad, I would, be a jerk and make the comment like, and we want and we want more kids.
Yeah, and of course that would make me really upset.
Right.
And me kind of the opposite. I would be really sentimental and sad over items that the kids were outgrowing or toys that they, were outgrowing as well, and what I should do with those things. Do I save them for maybe another kid someday on the chance that he comes around, or do I donate everything? And it was really hard. It was hard to not talk about it and give him the room to process things, as I was struggling so much trying to picture a future without more children in it.
Really, our conversation would always end with me saying, well, let's just table the discussion for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And really that didn't sit well with Rachel. And kind of as a compromise on my side was to get the embryos genetically tested.
If you are kind of new to the IVF process, you're given the option to test the embryos that you do end up with for chromosomal abnormalities, and we did not do that initially because we don't have any family history of any chromosomal abnormalities. So we didn't do it initially, but you can go back and do it later. We have a couple of videos where we actually filmed a consultation that we had with the company that does the genetic testing and what exactly they look for in that. So if you're interested in that at all, then we can link that video in the description box below. If you're unfamiliar with the IVF process, it's fascinating, in my opinion. So yeah, that's kind of the background on what genetic testing is.
So we called our reproductive endocrinologist, and this is what he said.
What about thawing genetic testing and refreezing?
We can do that. The testing is looking for chromosome problems, okay? All of us have 46 chromosomes, but sometimes the embryos won't. So that is something that we can do.
Okay. Yeah, I think we want to do that.
Well, it is, it turns out, one of them turned out to be chromosomally normal. Okay, so they're both chromosomally normal.
Wow.
Yeah. Sex.
Sure.
Okay, are you sure?
Was it?
Let us know.
No, I do.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm just going back to that moment in my head. It was kind of a difficult moment for me.
Really? Why?
Weirdly.
Because you didn't think that I wanted it?
Exactly. I, prior to this, had been praying that if we're not meant to have any more kids, that door would just be closed. And I wouldn't have to think about it anymore. I could work through whatever that meant for me emotionally, personally, and I could just move on. And I don't want any of this to sound like I'm putting future children above the children I have currently, because I adore my children and I can't even overstate how much they bring to my life. I just can't even overstate that. Like, I love my children, and the fact that I want kids in the future does not take away from the fact that I adore the children that I have. It's just a feeling that I am destined to have more children. So, like I said, I had prayed for, if that door needs to be closed, it would just be closed for me. And so part of me thought that since Brad was sort of on the page of not having more kids, and statistically what happens with embryos that are frozen, that are in their final stages, I think it's like 50-50 end up being chromosomally normal if you do go on to get them genetically tested. And we have 50% of our embryos sleeping back there.
It would be interesting because our clinic is really good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at Coastal Fertility out in Charleston, and they're really good.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Slowey is our doctor, and he's awesome. He's the man.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, if we had 4 frozen embryos, they were all going to be survivors.
Okay. I mean, we have a great clinic, but I think there's still a good chance that of your frozen embryos, there's going to be some that are not normal.
Well, that's why we got them genetically tested.
Exactly.
So that we would know exactly how many we have left that are viable.
Right, to help with decision making, I guess. And so at that point, I was just praying for a scenario that we could be on the same page. And what that felt like to me was that we had no more embryos that were viable, and that door could be closed, and we as a couple could move forward together without one of us having to give, if that makes sense. Because me being the one that wants more children and him being the one that does not want more children, both of those are very valid feelings. And for us, either one of us, to compromise on that would have been really difficult. It just would have been really hard. Like if we compromised on it without changing our feelings. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like somebody's heart needed to be changed here. And I was just praying that it would be mine because I just didn't know any other way around it. This was a very long way of saying that first hour of finding out that they were both normal, besides it being amazing news, like that's really awesome, it was sort of crushing for me because I was thinking, Brad doesn't want one more kid. There's no way he wants two more. And so that was like, there was no way we could move forward with two embryos that were normal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was just really sad. It was like a...
But then, you know, kind of this whole time, like I said, we've had this conversation almost every day. For me, it was always kind of in the back of my head, like, okay, well, let's just wait 6 months, see how things are, and then let's get them genetically tested, see how things are. And every day, the twins get a little bit more independent. They get a little bit less needy. Same thing with baby Eloise. We still call her baby Eloise, even though she's 16 and a half months now. Yeah. But same thing. I mean, she's walking. She wants to put on her own clothes already, and she feeds herself. And so things just, I mean, they get easier every day.
And I stopped breastfeeding, so you got to do like bedtime with her.
Yeah, exactly. So I get to really bond even more than before. And so, you know, hearing Dr. Slowey say that you have two genetically, you know, perfect, or two chromosomal normal embryos, and then he told us the gender, the sex, you know, I started to ease up on my position. And it'll come up in a future vlog about like the exact moment I knew, okay, well, we're going to have two more children.
Crazy. But after we got off the phone, obviously we didn't have cameras on, but if I'm playing back that memory in my mind, there was probably like a half an hour where we were trying to go about our normal
Yeah, I mean, obviously you saw the kids were being...
Kids were crazy.
Chaotic.
It was just a normal morning that I answered a phone call on my watch while I'm holding my child.
Yeah, because we thought it was going to be like 2 to 3 weeks before we got the results back, but it was more like
Days.
less than a week.
Yeah, it was days. So we were not expecting that. I was digging in the closet for like another shoe and saw on my watch I was getting a phone call from South Carolina, and that's how I knew. I was like, oh my gosh, we're about to find out some big news. And Eloise was like whining and but then like that next half hour to an hour, we were just, you and I were like just doing busy stuff, and then occasionally we'd be like, so what do you think, or whatever. We talked, like I did a quick story on Instagram, and I started recording for the story, and I could not even like think of the words to say, and then all you can hear is you in the background saying, well, how does that make you feel? So if you don't follow us on Instagram, like, you would have found out there before here that we did find news out. But then we sort of started having the same conversation that we've had over and over for the last year, where you say, let's table the conversation, and I say, well, that this feels like it changes things for me. And we just kind of started going back and forth the same way we have for a long time. And then all of a sudden, you just like, it's like a switch flipped, and all of a sudden you were like, yeah, we have to transfer the embryos. It was the weirdest thing ever, and I thought
for you in your head, but not for me.
I thought he was joking. I was like, okay, you're obviously just saying that so that this conversation could be over, because that's totally different than anything you've said for the last year. But yeah,
but not in my head, because in my head I've always said, well, let's wait for 6 months and see how it goes. And so we did. Mm-hmm. And now we know that we have two chromosomally
normal. But you've said like the last couple of weeks, even like you mentioned before, you've been kind of shifting. You've been thinking more along the lines of more kids, and this was like the icing on the cake, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
And that is not something that was like, that was news to me. I did not know that in his mind he was...
Well, and it's kind of one of those things where I didn't want to lead Rachel on and then like change my mind at the last minute. Like,
Right.
no, we're not having any more children.
After telling me you were softening your stance.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would have been pretty crushing for sure.
Right.
So yeah, here we are with 2 embryos frozen, and we know the genders of our potential future children. What's very interesting is that the chromosomally normal embryos, the chance of pregnancy is 80%. Those are pretty good odds.
Especially with your uterus. Those are even higher.
I knew you were going to say the U word. This video is going to get demonetized. Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, do you guys want to know the genders? Do we tell them the genders? They're embryos at this point. It's not a pregnancy, so is it taboo to announce the gender of an embryo? Has anyone done that?
Well,
Do you guys care?
we haven't. I mean, we've been an open book since we started this channel, so.
How weird is it that you can do IVF and know the gender of your child before you're even pregnant? It's weird. We know the genders. If you guys want to know the genders, we should set a goal. We should set a goal before we announce the genders.
Yeah, let's do it together. Let's build
Let's
this
do it.
community.
We love you guys so much. A lot of you have been here since, a lot of you say you've been here since day one, but realistically we had like 8 subscribers for a few weeks. So unless you're one of those 8.
And it was pretty much my family, and that was it.
Yeah, my family and your family. But if you've been with us since towards the beginning, thank you so much for like coming along with us this entire time. It's been humbling to have a community of people like rallying behind us as we go through our like most challenging years of life.
Well, and I think it goes to show that 1 in 8 couples struggle with infertility. So
That's kind of what we came out the gate saying.
exactly. So this topic needs to be discussed more.
For sure. Not only the topic of infertility, but then what comes after that and what decisions have to be made when you do something like IVF, and how you can go full board with IVF without kind of realizing some of the decisions you're going to have to make later down the road. It's, we are evidence that when you get through IVF successfully, you're not done,
And the thing is, even if you have this conversation before you transfer embryos, it changes when you become a parent,
It does.
especially if you have a surprise pregnancy.
Exactly.
So people need to know this stuff.
I know, it's tough. I just don't feel like, even if you like set infertility aside and say like a couple is getting ready to get married and they discuss how many kids they think they want, and then they start having kids and that changes, I would venture to say that most people don't have the exact number of kids that they thought they would have. It's of course a good conversation to have if you're going to get married, but that's a constantly evolving conversation, and we are evidence of that.
For sure.
So anyway, as far as a goal, so we're a ways away from transferring an embryo. So down the line, if we hit a certain number of subscribers, we're at about 70,000 now.
If you look
shoot
down at Brad Rach, it says how many subscribers we have. I think currently it's probably like 68,300, something like that.
Something like that.
So if we get 100,000,
Nice round even number.
we'll tell you the gender.
Almost double our channel size.
So
Share this video with friends.
tell your friends about us.
Yeah, once we hit 100,000 subscribers, are we like making this official?
Yeah, so
We'll do a gender reveal of our embryos.
what are we going to do if we don't hit 100,000?
I guess not share the genders.
Until they're born. Sorry.
Yeah, well, joking aside, even though that's kind of not a joke,
Nope. So
I guess the next decision that we have to make is which is better, one
One or
embryo
two.
or 2.
that's a horrible eye pun.
Bad eye pun.
So subscribe, tell your friends about us. We need to decide if we're going to do 1 or 2, transfer 1 or transfer 2,
Let us know what your vote is.
and then we need to reveal the genders.
We got a lot to do. We got a lot to get done here. We better get started.
And, spoiler alert, if we have another kid, we're moving out of this house. This house is too small. Oh my God.